Hi, friends, and thanks for listening to the Fashionista Life brought to you by True Fashionistas, where you can sell, shop, and look fabulous. I'm your host, Jennifer Johnson, and today we welcome into the studio Sam Meisner. Welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
Absolutely. So, I've known you for a long time, and I know that sustainability has always been a part of your life. And what is so cool is that you are a co founder of a business called Sunnyland Swim,
Yes.
and it's here in Naples in Southwest Florida. But let our listeners know what is Sunnyland Swim and how did you really start doing it and what's the whole brand about?
So basically, Sunnyland Swim came out of a love for not only the beach, but for protecting the beautiful environment that I've been so fortunate to grow up in my entire life. And me, along with my business partner, we like a lot of loud, fun items. So we're trying to bring that element back
Hmm.
into sustainability a little bit. And we always say we're trying to make the earth a sunnier place, one suit at a time.
Oh my gosh, I love it. And it ties in with Sunnyland Swim. And tell our listeners why it's called Sunnyland Swim because I
So
thought that was quite cool.
so we got the name years ago. Actually, when I was working for you, I needed a new place to stay. And one of your other employees, Gladys, who's now my business partner, invited me to live with her. And then poor lady let me take over her dining room table and sew all these bikinis day after day. And that's where the name ended up coming from all
Oh my
these years later.
gosh.
Sunnyland was the name of the apartments.
Oh my gosh, that is so cool because it's just the beginnings, the humble beginnings of a brand that you never know what's going to come of something,
I would
right?
have never guessed it back then.
It's weird where life takes you sometimes and you don't know it and you just ride the wave, right?
Exactly.
So, with that, we're going to talk about you started your company from scratch, okay? How did that landscape look for you? You know, there's financing and there's finding suppliers and there's figuring out how I'm going to make this thing that I want to sell and then there's actually selling it. Like how did that all work for you? How did it look? You know, walk us through that.
So when we initially got started, it was actually Gladys who came to me and said, I remember you telling me that the samples would cost this much if we, get them manufactured. Here, I came up with it. Can we do it? And I was floored. And so luckily, I'd already kind of researched a couple suppliers and a couple areas that worked really well with small businesses and just getting started. So we kind of had that already in place. And then
Mhm.
eventually, actually, through that company that we were manufacturing with, one of their employees branched out and started her own company recently. So we were able to be one of her first.
Wow.
Yeah, which was really, really a cool moment. It kind of came full circle for us.
And finding him, I know because I produced a dress line many years
I
ago.
remember.
It's so hard to find somebody to make the pattern, and it's so hard to find somebody to actually to source the fabric, and then to find somebody to actually manufacture it. But you had to source specialty fabric.
Yes. Luckily, I already just through my own interest have researched so much about fabric that I already had a very strong idea of what I wanted to use. I have a background in sewing, so I already had sewed a lot of my own samples and kind of gotten an idea of how it would work. So at that point, it was really just finding a manufacturer that kind of aligned with what we needed.
Wow.
Yeah, it was a little more straight to the point then,
Right.
I think.
Right. Easier.
Yes.
Right. So now that because your store opened, because
Yes,
previously you were just online. I know that it started during the pandemic, and that was such a teaching moment, right?
exactly.
And from that, you decided, you know what, we're going to do a store. Do you? Does that mean that you just put both feet in and you quit your job and said, "I'm done. I'm all in. We've got the store," or did you continue working?
So both Gladys and I have full-time jobs, plural.
Wow.
Yeah. We just I really feel from a standpoint that I want to do this all myself. And that's
Mm-hmm.
not to say that family and friends have not pitched in their money, time, blood, sweat, tears.
Mm-hmm.
But we really, we want to make this ourselves. And I think part of that is having a strong financial backing and for both of us to be able to keep our jobs at
Mm-hmm.
this point in time and move forward as we grow this business is a really smart strategy for us.
Right. And I mean, so many people do just go, they're short-sighted in the fact, or they're so excited that they go, I'm done. I'm done. I've got this. And then nothing, it doesn't make money and they can't sustain that for long.
Exactly. And, we're at a stage, the store came kind of early, but I really felt strongly about this area and needing
Mhm.
something like this.
Exactly, it's up and coming.
And it was something I couldn't pass up. So for us to be able to do that, we needed to kind of make some compromises. And I think, keeping our jobs as we expand this
Mhm.
thing was the best way to do that.
Eventually, do you see yourself growing beyond there?
Oh, yes. Like yesterday.
All in good time, my dear. All
Sorry,
in good
boss, if
time.
you're listening.
But seriously, I mean, do you see this as a much bigger brand than what it is right now?
Absolutely. So what we did in the store, we obviously have our swimwear line in there, but we did bring in a lot of other local brands and even brands from really around the world that are making really huge innovations and strides in the sustainability arena. We have towels made out of recycled plastic, um, sunglasses made out of recycled steel. Who knew
Oh,
that was a
wow.
thing? Yeah, so many interesting. We have a group that has these artisans in Guatemala that are weaving recycled woven plastic and beading out of glass beads that are
Oh, wow.
just really interesting stuff. So eventually I would love to expand our brand to
Mhm.
kind of encompass some of those items. But I want to make sure we do it properly because we always come from a point of, we really do want to help the
Right.
environment.
That's so cool. That must take a lot of time to curate exactly what you want in the store.
Yes, I think everyone in my life is a little over me scrolling through my phone at all hours of the day.
They're like, "No more. Stop."
Yes.
Well, I think that's so cool what you've done.
Oh, well,
I think
thank you
it's
so
I
much.
think it's very, very cool. Is your closet overflowing? Or maybe your kids' closets are as well. Or maybe you just want to redecorate your home. If you're wondering what to do with all that stuff that you've accumulated, bring it all to True Fashionistas or even ship it to them for free, and they'll sell your unwanted items for you. They take away all the hassles by doing all the work, and all you have to do is sit back and collect your money. You can reach out to them online at truefashionistas.com or come into the store or check them out on Facebook or Instagram. That's truefashionistas.com. Hi, friends. We are back again with Samantha Meisner, and she is the co founder of a local business called Sunnyland Swim. And it's all about sustainability.
Yes.
It's really the core of your business and a touch of sunny swimwear to top it all off. So, you and your business partner have put your nose to the grindstone. You continue to work, you continue grinding it out every day on top of your side hustle, which has become more than just a side hustle.
Yes.
So, if you would give our listeners 5 suggestions or pieces of advice that you would give to a new entrepreneur or somebody who's thinking about starting a business or currently has a business that will help them, that lessons and things that you've learned in your journey.
So, one of my biggest things I think that I wish I would have given myself this advice back then is just start now.
Mhm.
I think,
Start before you're ready.
yes, there's
Yes.
never going to be a time where you're going to sit there with all your ducks in a row and be like, okay, I think today I'm going to open my business. It doesn't work like that. I've just noticed, I think I personally wasted a lot of time when I could have done this sooner.
Mhm.
And having someone like Gladys, luckily, who kind of pushed to make it all happen was really huge. But
Mhm.
I would say one of the biggest pieces of advice, just start now. You're not going to feel ready. You're not going to know all the answers. But once you start moving in that direction, if it feels like you maybe can find the answers a little easier.
That's great advice, momentum, right?
Exactly. Also, I would definitely say one of the biggest things that's been for us is find community. We were so fortunate when we got started to get involved in pop ups, and we've met so many other local entrepreneurs and specifically women in business
Mhm. There's a lot of us.
who are going through the same things and just even commiserating with them. Like, we have our swimwear in a boutique in Coconut Point called Local Honey.
Mhm.
And through the journey of opening the storefront, she had opened a storefront a couple years ago as well too, just commiserating with her on some of the simplest stuff like the permits that you need or
Right. A lot of the under the hood things that people don't think about.
yes. And having that community kind of in place, I didn't realize how important that would be until we got into the storefront arena.
Mhm.
Also, I would say another huge part of this is everything takes more time and money than you think. Gladys would be so proud that I said this right now.
The time or the money part.
Both.
That's funny because it's very true.
It's every time you turn around,
Mhm,
something's always gonna cost more than you think. It's gonna take more time than you think. Even something as simple as like a few weeks ago, I came up with some decoration for the wall and I was like, I'm gonna get this done by the end of the day.
mhm.
And 3 days later, I was covered in hot glue and things were falling off the wall. And
Mhm.
and that's obviously a simple example, but even, the whole process of manufacturing and all that, just everything takes more time and money than you
And I would agree. I would
think.
definitely echo a heck yeah to that for
Yes.
sure.
And then I would say, these last two things kind of go hand in hand. Having thick skin, and one thing I heard this in a song. It's a Baz Luhrmann song, and I'm going to butcher it, but he said, um, "Be careful whose advice you buy, but be patient with those who supply it."
Mm.
And I think that's huge because so many times people have told me, "Oh, you should do this." And then we go and do that and it flops on its head
Mhm.
when really we were thinking about doing something completely different. And it's not that people are coming from a bad place. It's just I think that you know your business the best. And
Right.
that does go hand in hand with having a thick skin, which I've had to learn. I take everything very personally. And in business, sometimes it's just not that way.
And I agree with that. I come from that same place, Sam, and it's always taken to heart. Everything's personal from the people that you employ to what color the walls are.
Hmm.
And somebody comes in, "Oh, I don't like the color of those walls."
You should paint it this. Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
It's hard,
And
but
then you paint the whole wall and then you realize that it's terrible,
it
right?
is. And then the next person comes in and they go, "I hate that too."
Hmm.
It's a very thin line and it's hard. I've been there, and I'm sure many of our listeners who are business owners as well have felt that same way.
It's definitely something that, I think now I'm strong enough to say, no, I think I'm going to stick with what I'm
Mhm.
doing or think it through. And really, sometimes people give great ideas. I mean, even,
Right.
honestly, if you come in our store, I'm going to have to be honest with you. A lot of the decor type stuff is my dad.
How ironic. Oh my gosh.
And he had great ideas for it, but that's, not always the case with
Right.
all of the
Right.
advice that you get out there.
So speaking of which, what's the best piece of advice that you've ever received?
Oh, that's a tough one. I would say the best piece of advice is something my mom has told me. It's suit up and show up.
Mhm.
And it goes right in hand with start now. I think getting up, getting ready, and saying, well, I don't know what I'm doing, but I'm going to go out and do it. That has been half the battle for us
Mhm.
every single day. Suiting up and showing up.
Right. It's intent. It's you kind of learn a lot of things by just doing.
You're consistently in uncharted territory being an entrepreneur.
Oh,
And
yes. It's like children. They did not come with a manual.
nope.
And neither did owning a business, but all you can do is listen to the people outside of you. And like you said, you can't always take everything, but you can filter what you can use.
Exactly.
That's great advice. That's wonderful advice. So I'm going to ask you a couple little fun facts.
Yes.
What is the best book or podcast that you've listened to or read lately?
So I'm still in the process of rereading this book that a friend loaned me, but it is absolutely applicable in so many areas in life. It's called Developing the Leader Within You, and it's the 2.0 version.
Okay.
And even if you are not in a leadership position, there's a lot of things in there just in how to handle certain
Mhm.
situations, and especially stuff that's useful to somebody who is running a business because no matter what, even if you don't have any employees, you're leading yourself, you're leading your
Mhm.
business, you're leading your brand. I've I found so much in it the first time around that I'm going back through it again now. So
Wow, that's awesome. And it was developing the leader within you,
yes, and it's the 2.0 version.
2.0.
Yep.
We'll make sure that we drop that in our podcast notes so that our
Perfect.
listeners will be able to grab that. And then we've already talked about the best piece of advice that uh, that someone has ever given you, and that was your mother. So suit up and show up. I love that saying. Is there anything else that you would love our listeners to know? Whether it be, to do with your swimwear line or entrepreneurship.
I mean, I would say in terms of entrepreneurship, don't underestimate yourself.
Mhm.
I think I'm seeing more and more so many women, I think, in the business space that it's been inspiring to
Mhm.
me in a really big way, and seeing all the different ways with which they tackle things. That's been a really unexpected. It's funny, the area that we're in
Mhm.
Bayshore, we started seeing that most of the businesses on that block are all women-owned businesses.
That's
Next to
so
us,
neat.
behind us, across the street from us, and it's really neat to see
Mhm.
in a very traditionally conservative area.
Right.
It wasn't something that I saw much growing up here. So, and it kind of made me feel like, huh, I can do it too, you know?
Right. And I love never underestimate yourself. We're destined for great things, as are you and your company.
Well, thank you so much. And thank you for having me.
Absolutely, and I congratulate you on all of your, endeavors, your success. It's just been wonderful watching you literally grow up before my eyes.
We've come a long way from the back of the warehouse days.
Oh my gosh, yeah, life changes and, you've grown and what you've created is pretty amazing.
Well, thank you so much. I hope you pop in the store
I
soon.
absolutely will. So, speaking of which, how do our listeners get a hold of you? How do they see your swimsuit line?
Yes. So you can either stop in our store, we're in the Bayshore Arts District, or you can check us out online at sunnylandswim.com. And we're also on Instagram and Facebook.
Fabulous. And thanks again for listening to the Fashionista Life. I'm Jennifer Johnson, your host, and this has been brought to you by True Fashionistas. Make your day fabulous.